When Ike first entered the Gulf, it was headed towards South Texas, but a slight turn had it suddenly coming right for us in fast. That meant families had to evacuate quickly, and some members of those families, the pets, were sadly left behind. The American Humane Association has been trying to help these last few days. With me is our Scott Mitchell and photographer Justin DeYoung. You've been following these guys as they go through the process of trying to locate these pets and reunite them. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually we spent a couple of days with them, and when we first met with them, they were out doing assessments of the area, and basically they would blanket different portions of the area and just kind of gauge where they were really needed.
So they try to see if people are home where there are pets, say, in the backyard?
Yeah, they would go through and just pretty much check any house that they could see signs of an animal, and then check and make sure that they had food and, you know, something that they had to live on.
And if they didn't, what happened?
Well, we had a couple of, when we went out with them the second time, we actually had a couple of houses that we found that were just totally destroyed, and the people had left the pets, so their animals running free, and then they put them into a temporary shelter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, pretty tough times. Both of you were out working on this story for 2 days, and you obviously shot this story. What did you see?
I thought it was incredible the number of volunteers that had come in from out of state to help take care and rescue our animals. They had a huge trailer filled with any kind of equipment they would need to do emergency surgery, to shelter these animals, to feed them, and really try to reunite them with their families.
And we all know that sometimes pets, when they're on their own, can be aggressive, even when you're trying to help them.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and actually that was one of the things that they were worried about having us tag along,
right? Because
we were relatively inexperienced with you know, dealing with animals, and their main issue was safety. So you know, it was a lot of it was a process. Every time we did anything, we had to stop and we had to talk about it.
Wow.
And we had to
be careful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like an interesting challenge. Let's take a look at what you found.
The American Humane Association is a national organization made up of technically trained volunteers specializing in assisting animals in the wake of a disaster. They arrived just days after Ike blew through southeast Texas and have been checking farm roads and neighborhoods for pets left behind. American Humane volunteers come from all over the country. Most are animal control professionals or emergency responders who use their vacation time to help those in need. From their mobile command unit, the team can set up camp in a disaster-affected area for weeks at a time.
Those long hours when we're working at the height of a disaster, we even have a couple of bunks set up so that command staff can grab a quick nap and get some rest, because sometimes we're working 24 hours straight because disasters don't have a schedule. We work on their schedule.
They're equipped to care for both small pets and large animals and can even perform emergency surgery.
A lot of people out here right now have no power and they have no water, so even if they have their animals and they're taking care of them, they might need just a little bit extra help.
Photographer Justin DeYoung and I spent 2 days with an American Humane team. The first day we followed as they assessed the need in Jefferson County near the town of Meeker.
Like, these folks are home. Fortunately, they don't have any power, but they're home, which means that they're able to take care of their animals, and that's great. But what we look for is when people aren't home and it's obvious. When the fences go down and you see the doors and the windows blown out of the houses, that you worry about the small animals getting out. And the poor companion animals, they don't know if the storm came from the inside of the house or the outside of the house, so they don't know which way to go. Because if an area is evacuated, they can't always get back in there to bring their animals out.
Day 2, we head out to Chambers County, where some communities were completely wiped out by Hurricane Ike.
Now, using the formula that I use when I do assessments, I'm guessing that you may have somewhere around 20 in Oak Island. You'll have about 10 or so at that point.
Once the animals are rescued, they'll be brought to a shelter like this. Rescue workers predict they'll bring as many as 100 animals from the area to this shelter, where they'll receive much-needed food and care. Our trip takes us to the community of Oak Island, where the American Humane team searches through the rubble that was once beachside homes and boathouses, until a distant bark leads them to an animal in need.
Keep forward, Deborah. The hardest part with hurricanes is people think if they survived one, they don't need to get out for another one, and that's not true. People always need to make sure they can't have the thought of, it won't happen to me, because hurricanes, disasters, fires, they can happen to anybody, and you need to make sure that you and your family, which includes your pets, are taken care of.
Wow, that's something else. You know, we heard with Hurricane Katrina that a lot of people weren't allowed to bring their pets when they evacuated with the bus services and what have you. Did you get a sense that more people did take their pets with them this time?
You know, I actually got a sense that the people who, more people stayed.
Right.
And it seemed like there were more people here. I mean, this was just days after the storm that we started going out with these guys, and they were reporting that like 80% of the people in these rural areas where they were going were there.
And I'm sure they're very careful about logging the information about where the pet came from so they can return the pet.
Right. At one point, the animal we saw that was rescued, there was a car left behind, and they said, let's take down that license plate number. Maybe we can cross-reference it to this address and maybe find this owner.
Yeah, I know up in North Texas there are hundreds of pets that were taken from this area that are in a shelter up there that they're trying to reunite, and hopefully they're able to do that. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Scott Mitchell and photographer Justin D. Young.